Think about what it takes to build a weapons industry from scratch. No allies willing to sell you parts. No access to Western technology. A war on your border that is burning through everything you have, and an embargo that cuts you off from the rest of the world. That is exactly the situation Iran found itself in after 1979. And instead of collapsing, it built. What Iran has produced over the past 4 decades is one of the most underestimated arsenals on the planet. Rifles, mortars, battle tanks, submarines, cruise missiles, hypersonic glide vehicles, and swarms of combat drones that have already changed the course of wars in Ukraine, Yemen, and the Middle East. Some of these weapons are crude copies of systems from other nations. Others are genuinely sophisticated, combat-proven, and now appearing on battlefields thousands of miles from Tehran. This is the full account of what Iran built, how it built it, and where those weapons ended up. Chapter 1. Born in War, the Infantry Arsenal. Iran's weapons industry did not begin with missiles or drones. It began with the urgent, unglamorous need to arm a soldier on the front line. The Iran-Iraq War, which ran from 1980 to 1988, was the forcing function. With Western suppliers cut off and Soviet arms flowing to Baghdad, Tehran had to manufacture or go without. The RPG-7 was one of the first systems Iran reverse-engineered and produced locally. Simple, reliable, cheap to make, and already well understood by Iranian forces who had captured Soviet-supplied examples from Iraqi troops. Iranian-made RPG-7s eventually spread far beyond the country's own military. They have been documented in the hands of Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon, Shia militias in Iraq, and Houthi forces in Yemen, distributed through Iran's network of proxy relationships that would become one of its defining strategic tools. From the launcher came the rifle. The KH-2002, known as the Khaybar, is Iran's attempt at a truly indigenous assault rifle. It draws from 2 very different lineages, the rotating bolt of the American M16 and the overall layout of the German G3, which Iran had already been manufacturing under license since the Shah's era. The result is a modern-looking bullpup design chambered in 5.56 NATO, adopted primarily by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The S-5.56, sometimes called the Masaf, is a more conventional G3-derived rifle also chambered for 5.56, bridging the transition between Iran's older stocks and its newer production. For precision fire, Iran developed the Nakjir, a domestic sniper rifle built on the Soviet Dragunov SVD platform. The Dragunov's semi-automatic 7.62 by 54R system was well suited to Iran's doctrine, and local production allowed the country to equip designated marksmen without relying on imports. Further up the caliber scale sits the AM-50 Sayyad, Iran's answer to the anti-materiel rifle. It is a direct clone of the Austrian Steyr HS.50, firing the same half-inch round, capable of defeating light armor, disabling aircraft on the ground, and reaching out beyond 1,500 meters. Iranian-made AM-50s have been seized by coalition forces in Afghanistan and Iraq, recovered from non-state actors who received them through Iranian supply channels. Rounding out the small arms family are several sidearms and support weapons. The PC-9, also called the Zoaf, is a locally produced semi-automatic pistol for general military issue. The MPT-9 is a more compact variant intended for special operations units. The Tondar is a light machine gun for infantry squads, while the MGD PM-9 serves as a heavier, sustained fire option. The Saege is an underbarrel grenade launcher, compatible with the Khaybar and similar platforms. These are not glamorous weapons. They do not appear in headlines, But they are the foundation of everything else Iran has built, and they represent the moment the country decided it would never again be entirely dependent on someone else's willingness to sell. Chapter 2: Fire and Range, Artillery and the Rocket Families. If small arms kept Iran's soldiers armed, it was artillery and rockets that gave Iran the ability to project force beyond its own borders, and to hand that capability to its allies. The HM-41 is a 120mm mortar, a straightforward system that forms the backbone of Iranian indirect fire at the battalion level. The Hadid is more ambitious, a 155mm self-propelled howitzer built on a modified American M109 chassis, a vehicle Iran had acquired before the revolution. Fitting a locally developed 155mm gun to a Western chassis produced a capable platform, though the irony of repurposing American hardware for an anti-American military is hard to miss. The Rod-1 and Rod-2 are short-range missile systems designed to strike fixed targets at distances beyond conventional artillery. But the real story of Iran's ground-based firepower is its rocket families, systems developed specifically for range, simplicity, and transferability. The Zelzal series, whose name translates as earthquake, began as unguided rockets with a range of roughly 200 kilometers. The Zelzal II in particular became one of Iran's most consequential exports. It was transferred to Hezbollah in Lebanon ahead of the 2006 war with Israel, and was used to strike targets in the northern part of the country, well beyond the range of anything Hezbollah had previously possessed. The psychological and strategic impact was significant. Iran had effectively extended its reach into Israeli territory through a proxy, without a single Iranian soldier crossing a border. The Fajr series operates on a similar logic, but at shorter ranges. The Fajr 3 and Fajr 5 are multiple launch rocket systems, with the Fajr 5 capable of hitting targets 75 kilometers away. Both have been delivered to Hamas in Gaza and to Hezbollah in Lebanon. In November 2012, Hamas fired Fajr 5 rockets at Tel Aviv and Jerusalem during Operation Pillar of Defense, marking the first time those cities had been struck by rockets since the Gulf War. It was a moment that demonstrated exactly what Iran's export of these systems meant in practice. The Falak 1 and Falak 2 are heavier rockets on mobile launchers, used to deliver larger warheads at shorter ranges. They have been documented in service with Iraqi Shia militias. The Arash is a lighter artillery rocket for tactical use. At the upper end of the unguided spectrum sits the Naziat family, a series of large-diameter rockets ranging from 355 to 430 millimeters, with ranges between 100 and 130 kilometers. The Naziat represents the upper boundary of what Iran considers unguided fire, beyond which guidance systems become a necessity rather than a luxury. Chapter 3: Precision at Distance, Ballistic Missiles and Cruise Missiles. No element of Iran's arsenal has received more international attention or provoked more alarm than its ballistic missile program. What began as copies of Soviet Scuds has evolved into a family of indigenously designed systems that now includes hypersonic weapons. The Shahab 1 and Shahab 2 are the foundation, both derived directly from the Soviet R-17 Scud, with ranges of approximately 300 and 500 kilometers respectively. Iran acquired these through multiple channels in the 1980s and quickly moved to produce them domestically. The Shahab 3 is a more significant step. Based on the North Korean No-Dong missile, it carries a warhead to distances of around 1,300 kilometers, bringing Israel, Saudi Arabia, and U.S. bases across the Gulf within reach. The Shahab 3B, also designated Ghadir 1, extends that range further to approximately 1,800 kilometers through a lighter airframe and modified fuel system. The Fateh 110 is where Iran's missile program stopped copying and started engineering. It is a solid-fueled, road-mobile, short-range ballistic missile with a range of 300 kilometers and a circular error probable measured in tens of meters rather than hundreds. Solid fuel means it can be launched with minimal preparation time, dramatically reducing vulnerability to preemptive strike. The Fateh 110 has become Iran's most widely distributed missile system, supplied to Russia, to Hezbollah, and to the Houthis. It is the export product that defines Iran's role as an arms supplier. The Fateh 313 is an improved variant equipped with GPS and inertial navigation, making it even more precise. Supplied to Hezbollah, it was used in strikes against Israeli targets during the escalation of 2024. The Zulfiqar pushes the Fateh concept to 700 kilometers, and the Dezfoul extends it further to 1,000 kilometers. U.S. intelligence has assessed that the Dezfoul has been delivered to Houthi forces in Yemen, giving them a weapon capable of striking virtually anywhere in Saudi Arabia. The Ahmad introduced a maneuvering re-entry vehicle to Iran's ballistic arsenal, making terminal phase interception significantly harder. The Khorramshahr carries a separable warhead and reaches 2,000 kilometers. The Sejil is a two-stage solid-fueled missile with a declared range of 2,500 kilometers, one of the most capable ballistic missiles in the Middle East outside of Israeli inventory. In June 2023, Iran unveiled the Fateh 1, claiming it as the country's first operational hypersonic missile. It uses a maneuvering hypersonic glide vehicle that travels at speeds exceeding Mach 13, which, if accurate, makes it nearly impossible to intercept with current systems. The Fateh 2 is a follow-on variant with an improved glide body. Both remain subjects of active analysis by Western intelligence agencies. The Paveh is Iran's answer to the long-range cruise missile. With a declared range of 1,650 kilometers and terrain following flight at low altitude, it is designed to evade radar. The Paveh was used in the April and October 2024 strikes against Israel, flying hundreds of kilometers through Jordanian and Syrian airspace as part of a coordinated salvo that included ballistic missiles and drones. The combination was deliberate. Saturate defenses with different threat types, arriving from different altitudes at different speeds. Chapter 4. Close Combat, Anti-Tank Weapons and Air Defense. Iran's ground combat capability depends on two categories that receive far less attention than its missiles: systems designed to kill enemy armor, and systems designed to deny enemy air power. The Tufan is where Iran's anti-tank story begins. It is a direct reverse engineering of the American BGM-71 Tau missile, which Iran had acquired in large quantities under the Shah and then replenished through the Iran-Contra affair. Wire-guided, optically tracked, and capable of penetrating most tanks of its era, the Tufan became one of Iran's most proliferated exports. It has been documented in Lebanese Hezbollah inventories, with Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, and with Houthi forces in Yemen. The Delavier is an improved version with laser guidance replacing the wire, giving it the ability to engage moving targets and reducing operator exposure time. Both have been seized on multiple occasions by U.S. and Israeli forces. Iran also produces a local version of the Russian 9M133 Kornet, a more modern laser-guided system with tandem warheads capable of defeating explosive reactive armor. The Iranian-manufactured Kornet has been supplied to Hamas and used against Israeli Merkava tanks. The Rod is a second-generation Iranian ATGM developed independently. The Towsan is a lighter helicopter-launched variant designed to give Iranian attack helicopters an organic anti-armor capability. On the air defense side, the starting point is the Misag, a shoulder-launched man-portable system derived from the Chinese QW-1 infrared-guided missile. The Misag-1 and Misag-2 are the two main production variants, with the Misag-2 offering improved sensitivity and a higher engagement envelope. Both have been supplied to Houthi forces and Iraqi militias and have been used to engage helicopters in Yemen and Iraq. A shoulder-launched system that can be handed to a non-state actor and used the same day is a fundamentally different kind of capability than a fixed air defense battery. The Shahab Thaqeb is a vehicle-mounted short-range system, providing point defense for ground formations. But it is the Khordad family that represents Iran's most operationally significant air defense development. The Khordad 3 achieved global notoriety on June 20, 2019, when it shot down a United States Navy RQ-4 Global Hawk drone over the Strait of Hormuz. The Global Hawk is a high-altitude, long-endurance surveillance platform that costs over $130 million. Destroying one with a domestically produced missile was a demonstration Iran made certain the world noticed. The Khordad 15 is a more capable successor, claimed to have anti-stealth capability and roughly equivalent in performance to the Russian S-300. The Bavar 373 is Iran's most advanced air defense system, positioned as a domestic alternative to the S-400. It uses the Sayyad family of surface-to-air missiles, with the Sayyad 2, Sayyad 3, and Sayyad 4 representing successive improvements in range, altitude, and resistance to jamming. The Bavar 373 is considered a national strategic asset and has not been exported. Chapter 5: The Drone Revolution, UAVs, and Loitering Munitions. Of everything Iran has built, nothing has changed the calculus of modern warfare more dramatically than its unmanned systems. Iran began developing drones in the 1980s, largely ignored by Western analysts. By the 2020s, those drones were being used in Ukraine. The Mohijer family is Iran's oldest continuously developed drone line. The Mohijer 2 was a simple propeller-driven reconnaissance platform. The Mohijer 4 added longer endurance and a basic strike capability. The Mohijer 6, the current production variant, is a genuine multi-role combat drone with electro-optical sensors, a laser rangefinder, and hardpoints for guided munitions. Iran sold the Mohijer 6 to Venezuela, where examples were photographed at El Libertador Air Base, providing the first confirmed imagery of Iranian combat drones in South America. The Ababil family developed in parallel. The Ababil 2 and Ababil 3 are propeller-driven systems used primarily for reconnaissance and light attack. The Ababil 3 became the workhorse of Houthi drone operations in Yemen, used in dozens of strikes against Saudi Arabian infrastructure, oil facilities, and Red Sea shipping. The Ababil 5 is a larger, more capable development with extended range. The Shahed 129 is Iran's male-class drone, roughly analogous in concept to the American MQ-1 Predator. It has a range of 1,700 kilometers, can stay airborne for 24 hours, and carries guided munitions. Iranian Shahed 129s were deployed over Syria in support of Assad government forces and were shot down on multiple occasions by Israeli and American air defenses. Then came the Shahed 136. It is not a reusable drone. It is a one-way weapon, a loitering munition that glides to its target and detonates. Simple delta-wing airframe, a small piston engine, a payload of roughly 40 kilograms of explosives. What it lacks in sophistication, it compensates for in volume and cost. Iran supplied the Shahed 136 to Russia beginning in 2022, and Russia began using them in mass salvos against Ukrainian power infrastructure, air defense radars, and military logistics. Moscow subsequently began producing its own version under the name Geran 2. The Shahed 238 is a jet-powered derivative, replacing the piston engine with a small turbojet, which significantly increases speed and makes it harder to intercept with traditional counter-drone systems. The Arash-2 is a larger, faster loitering munition with a declared range of 2,000 kilometers, designed to overwhelm advanced air defense networks rather than evade them. The Karar is a jet-powered reusable attack drone with a higher performance envelope, while the Kaman 22 is a heavier strike platform capable of carrying a 300-kilogram payload. The Mirage 521 is a dedicated anti-tank loitering munition, smaller and more precise, designed to hunt armored vehicles. The Gaza drone, unveiled in 2023, is a long-range strike system presented as a direct symbolic response to the Israeli military campaign, with range claims suggesting it could strike targets well beyond the immediate region. Chapter 6: Steel on Land and Sea, Armor and Naval Power. Iran's armored vehicle program began with a problem that defined its entire approach: a large inventory of American equipment that could no longer be serviced, and no supplier willing to provide replacements. The solution was to reverse engineer what it had and develop what it needed. The Zulfikar is Iran's main battle tank, developed in 3 successive variants. The Zulfikar 1 and 2 drew from both the American M60 and the Soviet T-72, combining elements of Western fire control with Soviet-style armor layout. The Zulfikar 3 is a more refined development with a longer gun and improved fire control. The Karar, unveiled in 2016, is Iran's most modern MBT claim, featuring composite armor, an autoloader, and an active protection system. How much of its performance matches the marketing is a matter of ongoing debate among defense analysts, but its existence as a domestically designed platform is not in question. The Tosan is a light tank on an M113 chassis, intended for air assault and rapid deployment roles. The Borog is a tracked armored personnel carrier derived from the Soviet BMP-1, giving Iranian infantry a vehicle that can keep pace with armor in the attack. Bora variants have been transferred to pro-Iranian militias in Syria and Iraq. The Raksh is a wheeled 4x4 armored carrier for internal security and lighter deployments. The Sarir is a lighter reconnaissance vehicle, and the Haydar 5 is a tracked infantry fighting vehicle offering better protection and firepower than the Barang. The Tufan is Iran's armed helicopter program built around airframes of the Bell 214 acquired before 1979 and fitted with locally developed weapon systems, including rockets, gun pods, and anti-tank missiles. Iran has shared the weapons integration technology, if not the airframes themselves, with regional partners. At sea, Iran's strategy is built around asymmetric threats in confined waters. The Sina and Thondor are fast missile patrol boats, the Thondor being a clone of the Chinese Hudong class, capable of launching anti-ship missiles at high speed before disengaging. The Hoot is a supercavitating torpedo derived from the Russian VA-111 Shkval, which surrounds itself with a gas bubble to drastically reduce drag and achieve speeds claimed at 223 knots. At that speed, conventional torpedo evasion maneuvers become nearly impossible. The Noor anti-ship missile is Iran's most operationally significant naval weapon. Derived from the Chinese C-802, it is a sea-skimming cruise missile with active radar homing. Iran supplied the Noor to Hezbollah, and on July 14, 2006, a Hezbollah crew fired one at the Israeli Navy corvette Aina NS Hanit, operating off the Lebanese coast. The missile struck the ship's helicopter hangar, killing 4 sailors. It was the first time in history that a modern warship had been hit by an anti-ship missile in actual combat, a milestone that reverberated through naval planning rooms around the world. The Qadr is a longer-range successor to the Noor, while the Nasr is a smaller, lighter variant designed for fast patrol boats operating in the Persian Gulf. The Zafar is a helicopter-launched anti-ship missile, extending the strike envelope to airborne platforms. Iran's submarine program has produced 3 distinct classes for coastal and littoral operations. The Nahang and Qadir are compact combat submarines suited to the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf, where larger submarines lose much of their advantage. The Fateh is the most capable, a 600-ton vessel designed for extended coastal patrol, equipped with torpedoes and capable of operating in the Gulf of Oman. 45 years of embargo, 45 years of sanctions, isolation, and being cut off from the technology that other militaries take for granted. The conventional wisdom was that this would keep Iran weak. It did not. What the embargo actually produced was an industrial base that owes nothing to foreign suppliers and needs no one's permission to operate. Iran's weapons are cheaper than Western equivalents, carry no political conditions, and have been tested in real wars under real combat conditions. That combination makes them attractive to precisely the buyers that Western exporters cannot or will not serve. The Shahed 136 in Ukrainian skies. The Fateh 110 in Houthi launch tubes aimed at Red Sea shipping. The Noor missile that changed naval doctrine in 2006. The Fajr 5 rockets that reached Tel Aviv. These are not hypothetical capabilities. They are weapons that have already altered the course of conflicts across 3 continents. The UN reimposed sanctions on Iran's conventional arms trade in 2025. Whether that changes anything depends on a question no sanctions regime has ever reliably answered. How do you stop a country from selling to buyers who want what it has, through channels that are already established, for weapons that are already in production? The arsenal exists. The customers exist. The answer to that question will shape the next decade of conflict more than most people currently recognize.